Thank you for joining us. We are going to start today with a short video, so I'm going to play that and then we will introduce our panelists.
Celebrating Disability Pride Month. What does Disability Pride mean to you?
My name is Oscar. I'm a rising sophomore in Newton South, and I have spinal muscular atrophy. I was taught from a very young age that I deserve to be included just like anybody else. Although I hope someday we can live in a world where people with disabilities don't have to work so hard to be included, I'm still proud of this mindset because it lets people know that I belong, and hopefully it helps others realize that people with disabilities maybe shouldn't have to work so hard just to participate in society. I persevered, and I'm proud of it.
Hi, my name is Erin Ryan Heineman, and I'm on the Melrose Commission on Disability. Disability Pride Month is really important to me because I didn't recognize myself as even having disability until I was about 35, even though I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at 17 years old. And now I'm a person that can actually help people understand what MS is and how it affects people. And that makes me really proud.
Hi, my name is Ari Levitt. I am a speaker at Understanding Our Differences. I have autism. Having autism basically means our brains are wired differently, and we see the world in a different way. Despite having a disability, I never think of my autism as such. It's just a part of who I am as a person. What disability pride means to me is to be proud of your strengths, but also be aware of your challenges and look for the right supports to help you get through them. That's what disability pride means to me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Elizabeth Phillips, and I'm from Newton, Massachusetts. I'm proud of my challenges because they're challenges that I've learned and faced through the years. Now I can tie my hair back all by myself without any help. I work at Gateway Arts, and my family is super supportive of everything I do. And so is the staff here where I live. I love it here.
Hi, my name is Keith Miller. I am from Watertown. Disability Pride means accepting and honoring each person with their differences and to make sure that they are being treated equal rights, which that means making friendships all the way down to including them in different projects, meetings, and also letting them lead into this country of what they would like to do.
Hello, my name is Rachel Lloyd, and I'm a dyslexic writer and educator. To me, disability pride means recognizing the ability in every disability. While my dyslexia has made my life and my career more challenging at times, it's also taught me invaluable lessons like perseverance and authenticity. My disability has shown me that sometimes what people think is your biggest weakness can actually turn out to be your greatest strength. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Heffernan, and I have a strong sense of disability pride. I have Down syndrome, but that is just a part of who I am. I am also a son, a grandson, a brother-in-law, and an uncle, a Newton North High School graduate, a Mass Bay Community College alumnus, a legislative aide at the Massachusetts State House for 13 years now, an employee at Star Market Armadale for 13 years now, a disability awareness speaker for 20 years now, a deacon in my church, a Boston sports fan lover, a devoted WNBA fan, Go Connecticut Sun, a Athletes Unlimited participant, a active part of my neighborhood, and someone who is blessed by a huge group of wonderful friends. I live out disability pride.
Hi, my name is Daniel Lubens, and what Disability Pride Month means to me is the acceptance of people with disabilities in our society. And my disability is anxiety, and it has taught me perseverance and grit.
Hi, I'm Barbara Lashinsky. I'm a member of the Commission on Disability here in Newton. I'm also a speaker for the Understanding Our Differences program. I happen to be blind and hard of hearing. most mobility impaired, but I don't let any of these things get in my way. In fact, I don't actually think about them much. I don't dwell on my disabilities or doing things differently. I've run 7 Boston marathons, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of all the things I've accomplished. So disability pride, I guess I'm just proud of who I am, and I think we all should be.
Hi, my name is Jack Lovett. I'm the co-chair of the Newton Commission on Disability. To me, disability pride means not just looking at your disability as a setback, but taking pride in the person that you've become because of your disability. I have Asperger's syndrome, and while it certainly has caused me difficulty at times, my disability has also taught me grit, perseverance, and empathy. I'm proud of who I am, not in spite of my disability, but because of it. Thank you.
The Price Center. Having a supportive place to go to feel accepted and connected to community is important for feeling proud of who you are.
What makes the Price Center special to you?
To like everybody, to be with friends.
Me, that I'm safe, and I like to run around the fitness room, and I like to talk to more.
Oh, it means everything. You know, everyone's included. Everyone's accepted for who they are, and everyone is special in their own way.
Thank you for celebrating Disability Pride Month 2024 with us.
Hello, everyone. Is this on? Yes? Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for Celebrating Disability Pride Month, a collaboration between Understanding Our Differences, the Newton Commission on Disability, and the Newton Free Library. My name is Lily Weitzman, and I am a programming librarian here at the library. I'd like to thank New TV for running our live stream tonight. New TV will also be making a recording of this event available for future viewing. Here is a little orientation for those who might be new to the library building. The closest water fountain is out the auditorium and directly across the anteroom. It's on the left in front of room B. To reach the closest restrooms, turn right when you exit the auditorium and then left down the main hall. The men's room is on the left before the front entrance, and the women's room is on the left after the front entrance. All gender accessible restrooms are located in the children's room and on the 3rd floor of the building. We have a lot of people to hear from tonight, so I will just take a moment to thank our organizers and speakers for all of their work on this program. I'm honored that the library can be a place where we come together in person and online to celebrate Disability Pride Month. And now I'd like to introduce Emma Johnsdotter from the Newton Commission on Disability.
Thank you, Lily. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Johnsdotter, and I am co-chair of the Newton Commission on Disability. And I am thrilled to see you all here at this first ever Public Disability Pride conversation in Newton. And a special welcome to our Zoom participants as well. Our goal here today is to start a dialogue about disability and disability issues. We want to acknowledge that we will be hearing from various viewpoints, perspectives, and experiences, just like we would expect in any other discussion. It is our hope that moving forward, we will be able to continue this important conversation in our community. The audience, both here and on Zoom, will be given a chance to ask questions during the Q&A portion of today's program. Please be respectful in your questions to the panelists. We will also be inviting you to reflect and share your thoughts on the Disability Pride flag and its description, which we have on the projector, as well as on your printed programs. The program notes are also available online if you scan the QR code on the program. Special thanks to Jenny Acosta from Understanding Our Differences, who has been working incredibly hard with us on today's event planning and is also managing our online audience this evening. And we would not have been able to put this together without our city's ADA coordinator, Jeannie Fairley. Thank you, Jeannie. And now please welcome Rebecca Lubens, the Executive Director of Understanding Our Differences. Sorry.
Thank you, Ema. On behalf of Understanding Our Differences, I join Lily and Ema in welcoming everyone here to this exciting first celebration of Disability Pride Month and the ADA. Now, UOD joined in this partnership effort because our educational program focuses on empowering people with disabilities and broadly increasing respect and inclusion. Together with our co-sponsors, we really champion a shared vision, fostering a world of inclusivity from childhood through adulthood, where all individuals with disabilities can thrive. Renowned disability advocate Judy Heumann said it beautifully. The more we can raise the voices of the millions who can speak about disability from a pride perspective, the more rapidly our movement will move forward. I'd like to extend a very special thanks to the Newton disability-focused organizations who are participating in this event and who shared their information with us before we got started. Those include Pathway to Possible, the Price Center, the Carroll Center, and Newton CPAC, all doing just amazing work in this city. I'd also like to thank Ellen Vershbo and Julia Barnes, our ASL interpreters. And now I'm very happy to turn over the mic to the Mayor of Newton, Ruth Ann Fuller.
Hi, everybody. How we doing? First of all, I just got to say, on this hot, steamy night in July, thank you for showing up. It really makes a difference. So thank you. To Rebecca and to Understanding Our Differences, to Jenna, to the leadership, to Ema, who co-chairs the board? Co-chairs the board. You do important work and have for decades with up-to-date, constantly improving your work. We're grateful for all you do. The Newton Commission on Disabilities, we have a almost brand new member, Nathan Persampieri. I put his name forward. He just has to get through the city council. So I saw Mark Laredo, Rick Lipoff, Bill Humphrey. Nathan has my strong endorsement. How about that for a little lobbying while you're here? I also do want to acknowledge we've got 3 former city councilors in the room. To Deb Crossley, Amy Sangiolo, and Greg Schwartz, I'm so glad you're with us as well. Bravo on the video. Rebecca said it beautifully, how important it is to lift up the voices and take pride. You captured it beautifully in the video. This month, this celebration matters. Thank you for that work. I want to go back to Jeannie Fairley for a second. I was on the city council when the Commission on Disability advocated effectively, and I think Deb and Amy and I were probably on the board. It may have been a little before your time, Mark and Bill and Greg, that we needed a full-time ADA coordinator in the city of Newton. And oh, was that right? And boy, though, are we blessed to have Jeannie. So to Jeannie Fairley, cities and towns are certainly envious that we have a full-time coordinator, but they're green with envy that we have Jeannie. And, you know, she and the entire disability community and the commission are making us do things better, do things right. Certainly when we're building buildings, we're doing it so much better. When we're thinking about sidewalks, we're doing it better. We're increasing the use of technology to provide access, or if we're thinking about our playgrounds, we're doing it better. But I want to quote Oscar. I thought Oscar was here somewhere. I saw you on the video, but I heard you. There you are. He led off the video by saying, we shouldn't have to work so hard to participate. You're right, Oscar. Well said. We have a heck of a lot more work to do together. We'll do it. And I'd also, I had a chance to speak with Gary a couple days ago. And one of the other themes is how we have to keep evolving the nature of the work we do. And Ema talked about there are differences of opinion. What does it mean to evolve and to do things? I'll be here for most of the night. I can't wait to learn some more and listen carefully about the different choices we have. I get the honor of introducing Gary. So Gary Alpert, he's co-chair of Understanding Our Differences. He's a Newtonian, came here at age 5, has an amazing job at, let me get the title completely right, Director of Admissions and Community Outreach at Metro West Jewish Day School. He's an educator. But when I think of Gary, I think of somebody who has a really keen moral compass, amazing positive energy, and for those of you who know a little bit of Yiddish, go to a dictionary and look up Mensch. There's his picture. Gary Alpert, our moderator.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We are here to celebrate Disability Pride Month and the 34th anniversary of the passing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a federal legislation that had changed everything for people with disabilities throughout the United States. 34 years is a long time, and yet we have a long way to go. As the mayor spoke so beautifully, it is evolving, and I have seen it in my lifetime. Everyone on this panel has seen it in their lifetime, and I look forward to seeing what tomorrow brings. With that, I want to thank everyone for their beautiful introduction. I want to welcome folks on Zoom. If you are on Zoom and you have questions, feel free to add it into the chat box and we will write them down and I will ask them. If you are in the audience, thank you so much for being here. It's nice to feel the AC. It's a little hot outside. If you have questions, please feel free to remember them. And we also have some note cards if you want to write them down. And we will collect them, or you can ask them if you wish to at the end of the program. Our very first question is for everyone seated here. And that is to briefly share about yourself. What is your disability? When did you learn that you had a disability? And how has it shaped who you are today? So I'll just lead by example. My name's Gary Alpert. I am deaf. I'm deaf in both ears. I was born this way. My parents did not find out until I was 2 years old. And at age 5, I moved to Newton, Massachusetts, and I was in NPS, Newton Public Schools, throughout my life. I think about deafness every day, from the moment I put in my hearing aids until the moment I take them out. It affects everything I do, and it's really shaped who I am today. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Nairi.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. I don't know if I can talk that. Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Oh, thank you for coming. I am Nairi Kabarian. I've been a Newton resident for the past 2.5 years. It's been great. I am also a wheelchair user. I live with a disease called Emery-Dreifuss muscular dystrophy. So that is why I'm a wheelchair user. It basically means that my muscles slowly, over time, get weak. They slowly die off. And I've had this disease pretty much my whole life. Around 4 years old, my parents started noticing that I was crawling up the stairs instead of walking. Walking was getting a little bit more difficult. I had like a different gait walking. They didn't believe it when I first told them, or they noticed. They thought I was kidding around. I was a very theatrical kid. So eventually, went to the pediatrician, went to Children's, got the diagnosis, and didn't get a formal diagnosis until probably 10 years old, because it doesn't run my family. It was a mutation, came out of nowhere, left field, and I've been using the wheelchair on and off since I was 13 years old. Became a full-time wheelchair user by not being able to walk about 4 years ago. And how has it shaped me today? Oh God, here we go. It's a big part of my life, obviously. It dictates how I live my life. It definitely has, hindered me from a lot of things, but it also has made me a better person, I would say. One of the videos I said a lot of us have a lot of grit and tenacity, and I think that's something that I developed by having this disability. And by having this disability, I'm really good at pivoting and adapting, and it's just a natural ability I've developed because I have been forced to. So yeah, it's a big part. It's can be difficult, can be challenging. I hate to say it because it sounds so cliche, but it's like a superpower. I mean, it helps me in a lot of ways. So yeah, I don't know if that was good enough, but take it on.
We're going to turn it over to Robert to introduce himself. Same question.
My name is Robert Solomon. I had the great opportunity to grow up in a family that was already addressing or trying to address the disability community back when I and my 5 siblings were going through the end of grammar school and high school. My parents were the initial founders of the MARC organization, and we all had opportunities to volunteer for that program, which was very rewarding. Little did I know that in 2003, when I got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that a mistake would be made while I was having radiation, and while the tumor was down near my hip, the beam skipped and hit me at L5-S1 of my spine, and the hospital, and I won't say the name of it, they covered it up and destroyed documents, and we did not learn why I was losing mobility until 5 years later, when I had exploratory spine surgery, and they found massive radiation to my spine and the beginning of a progressive nerve root disease. So I then had chemo in 2009 and 10, and a great thing is that I've not had treatment for cancer since then. So 14 years without treatment, I think that's pretty good. But the nerve root disease is progressing, and it's causing a lot of damage to my spine. In 2015, I had to have a partial spine reconstruction about halfway up, and then this fall that started to collapse. So a new one had to be built in February, and this time they went from my pelvis all the way to my neck. And then this past June, they had to do some additional work, put some more screws in, but now I am not, as my grandson would always like to say, I don't have any more screws loose. Because of my history with my family, and because all of my siblings and I and my parents and my brother, who's a physician in Boston, he just retired, we've always been aware of the elderly and disabled, and have tried to reach out and do what we can to make things equal, or try to get things to be equal so that everybody had a fair chance. So that's my background. So.
Thank you, Robert. We're going to turn this over to Nathan to share a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself. What is your disability? When did you learn you had a disability? And how has it shaped who you are today?
Sure. My name is Nathan, and my disability has changed a little bit over the years. When I was 2.5 years old, I got my original diagnosis from my physician of cerebral palsy. And then I underwent a lot of tests and various doctors, various physicals, finding the right physical therapy, etc. And it took about 17 years, if you can believe it, to figure out what was wrong with me. I got re-diagnosed at the age of 17 with something called SEA 29. I won't bore you with what it stands for, but if you are curious, you can ask me after. But so it has been a very long journey, but I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today without my supportive parents and the strong support system I have at school. And I'm also very grateful for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. We're going to turn the same question over to Jack.
Sure. Well, so good to be here tonight with so many different people. I think my parents knew something was up within at least a few weeks of being born. I was what used to be called a rag doll baby. I had very poor muscle tone. You look at old pictures, my head was over. I had a lot of sensory issues. I was always throwing up from smells. Very socially awkward. Didn't pick up on social cues. Had a deep interest in very esoteric topics. I spent a lot of time as a kid in this library, actually, checking out documentaries and books as a kid on very specific things. I don't think it was until I was 9 years old I was diagnosed then with Asperger's syndrome, which I should put an asterisk around because in the mid-2010s it got reclassified as high-functioning autism, but that's what I was diagnosed as a kid, and for me that shaped who I am and my identity. Yeah, I would say it's had a huge impact on in so many different ways, both in terms of weaknesses I had to overcome, both in terms of, I think those esoteric topics I'm always studying is a big part of who I am. That's one part of the disability that I really like, and I would say, yeah, it's had a huge impact on just shaping my daily life. And I have a brother with severe autism as well, so autism's just a very big part of the family.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to turn it over to Barbara with the same question.
Hi, I'm Barbara Lashinsky. You guys can hear me? Oh.
Yes.
I'm the old lady up here, and my guide dog, Autumn, who wants to be up. I'm not going to bore you with the encyclopedia of medical conditions I have, but it was simply originally just blindness. But I was born with blind in my left eye. I was very highly myopic in my right eye. I wore those bottle-thick glasses, everyone makes fun of, the orthopedic shoes, the whole thing. What saved me was I am athletic. So I took up marathon running at a late age, and I just kept running. For 10 years straight, I ran away from everything, and it was fun. It was a blast until it came to a really bad stop with orthopedic issues. So, and I have an autoimmune disease called Sjogren's syndrome. It's a hidden disease. A lot of people have hidden disabilities. People don't think about it, but Sjogren's syndrome means that you don't make moisture anywhere in your body. So don't make tears, don't make saliva, don't sweat normally. Running marathons with that is really tough, but you just deal. So anyway, that also led to some complications with my eyes. And now I have been losing my hearing steadily, and I didn't really realize it. I just thought people were speaking slowly and really too soft, and I'm just really too loud. And now I got COVID, and the rest of my hearing just is like really not there. So wearing these cool hearing aids and not seeing is really not fun, but you just deal. And then I was born with scoliosis, didn't know that either. But when I stopped running, everything just fell apart. I should have kept running. But my spine just collapsed like an accordion, had 6 spine surgeries. I'm still active, really. I do. I take spinning, Pilates, I swim. You can do just about anything, really, if you put your mind to it. And so here I am. Hi, guys.
Thank you, Barbara. We have several questions, and what's going to happen next is not everyone is going to answer each of the questions. So I just wanted to explain that now so no one thought, well, I got left out, or what about this person? But it was planned ahead of time. But before I get into that, there are 2 people in the audience that we would like to send a hello and a welcome to. And the first person is Captain Dan Devine. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Devine, thank you, in the back row. So thank you for being here and for all the work that you do here in the city of Newton. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
And the second person I would like to welcome is Gwen Feinberg. Gwen is one of the originators of Understanding Our Differences 46 plus years ago. And so for someone to really see the evolution of understanding our differences, of disability rights, of people in Newton, thank you for bringing that to Newton. Thank you, Gwen. Right here in the 3rd row. So question 2, thank you. Question 2, we saw a video montage of what does disability pride mean to you? So that is the question I'm going to ask you now. What does disability pride mean to you? We're going to start with Jack.
Oh. Sure, so you already saw my video up there, but I would say, at least for Asperger's, the pride it's inspired is me. Nairi mentioned the word superpower earlier, and for me, that ability to really hone in and obsess over a topic actually was very helpful in school and some other things. In terms of the other aspects of it, some of the difficulties, like not having good social skills growing up or not being able to pick up on social cues. I had to spend a lot of time watching videos to learn how to understand body language and a lot of reading different books to learn social skills. And I did student government in high school, which sort of pushed me out of my shell and forced me to talk to people on a regular basis. And for me, it was I take a lot of pride in being able to overcome some of those weaknesses. And in terms of some of the others, like the poor muscle tone, like you'll see me slouch a lot, and that's still with me. But even then, I pick myself up every day and keep on going, and I take a lot of pride in that.
Thank you. Barbara, what does disability pride mean to you? Jack, could you do me a favor and move? Thank you so much.
I have a pretty big mouth. I could probably say it without that. I have to really come to grips with this question because I had difficulty answering it. I don't really think of myself as, I don't introduce myself as a disabled athlete. I don't introduce myself as a disabled marathoner. I just was a runner. And I'm having trouble with that label. I don't like labels. So I'm proud of myself for the things I've accomplished, the things I do, just because of who I am. And I don't qualify it with the disabled word because in this society, still, and it makes me angry, disabled folks have a rep. And it's not a good rep. And I struggle with it because I think we should all be really proud of ourselves. We struggle still with the things that are just not there for us. So I think I'll stop there before I get too riled up.
Thank you. Nathan, what does disability pride mean to you?
Well, first of all, I want to say that was well said, Barbara. I couldn't have said it better myself. But disability pride means to me taking pride in our identities and the barriers that we face as a collective should not get in our way. Disability pride also means that disability pride also means that you are free to live as independently as you want to, just like those who do not have a disability. Unfortunately, not everyone can live independently as they would like to, as some of those barriers exist. And I just would like to point out, like we saw in the video, it takes a lot of grit and determination to overcome those challenges. I've certainly overcome those challenges, and it has gotten me to where I am today. So thank you.
Thank you. Our third question. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, is a civil rights law that was signed 34 years ago this month and has been updated a few times since then. For those of you on the panel who were born before the ADA passed, can you describe what it was like before and after? For those of you who were born around the time of the ADA was passed or after, how do you think it has impacted your experience as a person with a disability? I'm going to take a moment for myself, because I'm one of those that was born before and I'm here after. And one of the, it seems so simple now, it's closed caption on your TV. When I was a child, I had to have a separate box that was attached to my TV. And there was not a lot of programming that had the caption capability. And after the ADA, every TV had to have that little chip inside it to allow for captioning. And today, I would say 90+% of everything has caption ability, and that has evolved to include streaming with Hulu and Netflix and other, and that was a huge change in a short time, but it was a long time. I'm going to put this question first to Nathan.
I'm gonna try to do this without looking at the paper so I don't get myself tripped up. But I was born after the ADA was passed, and I think it has impacted my life. I am now able to function, I would say 97% of the time on my own. There's a commuter rail station about 5 minutes from my house, and that is not accessible, so that is why I left out the 3%. So, anyway, we still need to work on that, and the fact that the 34th anniversary of the ADA passed next week, and that still isn't in compliant is something we need to work on. But anyway, other than that, I've been able to get to restaurants independently, government agencies. I'm gonna be signing up for the ride shortly. So I think the ADA has been helpful. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Nairi, we're going to ask you the same question.
Oh, hopefully I don't ramble. You ready, guys? Okay. So ADA, I'm going to say it first and foremost, and I think a lot of people might agree. The ADA is phenomenal, and I personally believe I wouldn't be up here without the ADA. The ADA was the pivotal thing, law that made it so people like me could participate in society. So the ADA is great, but it has a long way to go. It's been 34 years, or will be 34 years pretty soon. The laws are there, but like you said earlier, Nathan, compliance, like, you know, you go to businesses and like, well, we have a push button. Well, your push button hasn't been working for like 6 months, so how is that helpful? So little things like that, but I owe my independence to my family because they have instilled get it done type attitude my whole life. And I owe it to the ADA because without it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I have a full-time job as an insurance broker. I'm really sorry for everyone who has to deal with people like me. And the rates are not getting better. I apologize for that, not my fault. So I have a full-time job in the city. I have my own home, like I have a mortgage. I have what you would call, I hate to use the word normal. I can't think of anything else, but I have a very normal life for someone who's in their, I'm going to age myself, in their 30s. The ADA was passed a couple of years after I was born. And I owe my life to it, but I do hope that, you know, over time it does evolve. We keep saying the word evolve, right? I hope it gets better because it is a really good base, a phenomenal base, and we wouldn't be here without the pioneers and the advocates that pushed for it. But we got ways to go. But the ADA, I don't know what, I'm rambling again. I need it. If that wasn't for the ADA, I honestly don't think society would be pushed to learn and accept people with disabilities. That's my personal opinion, but it helps a lot.
Thank you. Moving along to question 4. Disability frequently gets left out of the broader conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why is it important to pay attention to the voices of people with lived disability experiences to ensure that inclusion and accessibility will benefit everyone? We are going to start with Robert.
I think that the problem is that many people still today have not had an experience with an elderly parent or a child who has some kind of disability or so that they're not they're not connected, they're not in conversation with this whole community that is seeking to have equal access. And if you have people in higher office who don't have those experiences, then we have to work harder to educate them. We all step up to do that, but we shouldn't have to. We enjoy doing that, and we enjoy educating people, but it shouldn't be up to us to get that moving. One of the suggestions that were made when we did Inclusive Design Newton last fall was that and now I can't remember that there be, in the process of hiring a city worker or somebody in the administration or even in the school system, that they go through a process of part of their training or part of their introduction to this city that prides itself in being aware of accessibility issues, that they go through some kind of education process so that when they start work, they'll be at least ready to run with it. So I don't know whether that answers the question at all, but it's just something I wanted to say. So.
I appreciate it, and it falls all under the same category of how to bring in a person with a disability and their perspective. Right. So thank you, thank you. We're going to turn that same question over to the end of the table to Barbara. If you need a repeat of the question, I'm happy to do that.
Would you read the question again?
I should. Disability frequently gets left out of the broader conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why is it important to pay attention to the voices of people with lived disability experiences to ensure that inclusion and accessibility will benefit everyone?
I tried to give this one a lot of thought because it's very important. I think that it's multifaceted, I think, and I'm going to actually refer to some notes because this is important. I think that there's a lot of societal attitudes and stigma around those of us who have disabilities, and whether we want to admit it or not, there's a lot of prejudice out there still. And that's because there's a lack of awareness about those of us who have disabilities. We need to have a dialogue, we really do, and I hope we have lots more of these. And I'm not going to belabor it now. There's not full accessibility for us. So you don't see us out there a lot. I mean, I don't know anybody else who's met a blind person. I mean, my friends and things, but if you get the gist. You don't see us in the entertainment industry. It angers me terribly when they have a blind person or someone in a wheelchair who's not really blind or in a wheelchair. So there's that issue too. The economic barriers we face. I mean, we don't make enough money. I mean, I don't get paid the same amount as someone who's able-bodied. I'll tell you that for certain. It just happens. Healthcare, the inequities in healthcare. You know, I'm going through it now. I don't have an advocate right now. You're a fool to go to a hospital without an advocate if you're disabled. It just happens. You get treated like dirt. It just happens. I have a really loud mouth and I can make a lot of noise. If you don't go without an advocate, you're asking for trouble because you just can't keep up. You just can't. And representation. Again, we need legislators to listen to us. And there's not enough of us in the legislature land. Like, I want to run for president against Trump, really. We should all run for president. I'm sorry, but we need to elect a good president. But there's not enough of us in representation in Congress and in the Senate, et cetera, et cetera. There needs to be more of us representing us. Not anything without us. By us and for us, with us. Okay, I'll say it now.
Thank you, Barbara. We're going to go right down and we'll go to Nathan next.
I echo both what Barbara and Robert said, and I just want to add that it is very important to pay attention to what people with disabilities are saying and that we don't feel silenced in society. I think that too often our society doesn't listen to people with disabilities as much as they should, and that's really too bad because they have valuable things to say. And the other thing I will share about disability getting left out of conversations is if you read that Fake City News article this morning that was advertising this event, I was quoted in the last sentence, and I said, if you embrace diversity but leave out disability, you're doing it wrong. And I think that is a powerful statement, and I really believe that. And if you want to talk about diversity as an organization, as individuals, great. but make sure you include disability, because as Barbara said, we are too much left out of the picture. So, thank you.
I'm going to go to Jack with the same question.
Sure. So I know the original question was about DEI essentially, and my only major experience with DEI was in college, and obviously I think they found, I am a liberal, I can't emphasize that enough. I think the office found me a bit of a pain because I thought when I was there, the way they practiced DEI was very myopic. We never talked about disability. I went through 4 years of DEI training and it never came up. Or, quick tangent, I'll bring it back to disability. For example, I'm biracial, I'm half white, half Asian, and I was taught through the program that you can only pick one race to be. So I went and started my own club, Mixed Student Union, to celebrate biracial voices in protest. But I would say, yeah, absolutely. I think disability needs to be way more part of the DEI conversation. I think my other critique too is I think too often DEI focuses very much on language, but I think we need to move beyond that to policy as well. I think about my brother who has severe autism. I'm his co-guardian. He's going to need housing. He can't live on his own. And right now, every group home in Newton and in the nearby area has a 10-year plus wait list. So I think we need to move the conversation to how do we actually build a truly inclusive society that takes care of people with disabilities, and empowers people with disabilities, and doesn't look through DEI with a myopic lens, but really through a lens for everyone.
Thank you, Jack. Same question to you, Nairi.
Oh, well, I will echo everything everyone said because I feel the same exact way. To the question asked, like, why do you think people with disabilities get left out of the broader conversation? I think it has to do with a lot of people thinking that a disability is it's a minority group that is so small that it doesn't need attention. Why would you? People with disabilities historically have been viewed as less than. Like Barbara mentioned, societally, like we're starting to get better about it, but we're not there yet. People with disabilities in the past, there was forced sterilizations, forced institutionalizations. You lost your autonomy, like you lost your ability to think, speak, live for yourself, do anything. And just recently with ADA and other processes and laws, we've kind of gotten better about being more independent and being able to make decisions for ourselves and not having to rely on other people to do that for us. And I think it's that societal aspect that pushes people with disabilities aside. I think that is what causes it to be kind of left out of conversations. Like I can tell you right now, I just thought about this just now. A couple years ago, the NASDAQ, I'm going to bring business into this, of course. The NASDAQ created not a law, but a rule that if you're going to be publicly listed with the NASDAQ, you need to have someone on your board, you need to have a percentage of your board that has someone that falls into the window of diversity. So POC, LGBTQ, religion, every protected class was included in that except for disability. That's a huge slap across the face. That just goes to show you that we don't take it seriously. Like why would we want someone with a disability on the board? You want someone with a disability on the board so that they can enforce and mentor and motivate people to hire people with disabilities. People with disabilities don't want to stay at home all day. They want to work. They want to be independent. They want to live for themselves. It's crazy. Like my company is we're the biggest brokerage firm in the world globally. We are a $20 billion revenue building industry. They are huge on diversity. They're huge on ESG. Huge on that. They do everything in their power to recruit POC, like they have organizations that they work with, LGBTQ. They don't work with any organization that recruits people with disabilities. And it's sad because people with disabilities, it's a huge workforce that you're not tapping into. Like people with disabilities, like we are really good about pivoting and just like figuring things out and doing things. And it's a loss for them. It's a loss for us. And I think we get left out because no one takes it seriously. And I think we're getting better about it, but we're not where we need to be 34 years later in 2024. Like we got to do better. And that starts with not only us advocating, but we need allies. We need allies that will not just, share something on social media. They will help us fight. Like, we can't fight this alone. It is exhausting. It's a second job. Our help is a job in itself, taking care of it, navigating the world with disability. And doing it alone, we're not going to get to where we need to be if we don't have advocates and we don't have allies with us. There's a reason why the LGBTQ plus community, the POC community, like they've gone so far today. And we've kind of been struggling because they get amazing support, whereas we're kind of not there yet. So we need disabled, non-disabled, everyone to help us push to get there. So.
Thank you. Our fifth question, we're going to start with Barbara. I'm giving you a heads up before I say the question. The disability justice movement had for many years been reclaiming the word disability. Rebecca Coakley, director of U.S. Disability Rights at the Ford Foundation, recently said in an interview, "I think that using euphemism, we fundamentally disconnect students with disabilities from their civil rights." What do you think of the word disability? Has your relationship to this word changed? And are there other words related to your disability that you choose to use about yourself?
I think I intimated earlier that I'm having trouble with this word. Where I grew up as a youngster I grew up in Roxbury, and it was right at the beginning of the white flight movement, and I had just been beat up by one of my friends, and when we were kids, it was if you diss somebody, you were looking for a fight, and so that's where I learned the DIS part of disability, and to this day, it's a visceral feeling I have about the DIS part of disability. So I went around in my motivational speaking career with using differability. And I wasn't comfortable with that either. I'm not comfortable with the word yet, and I'm not sure, I know there's a big movement now to push the word, and I'm just not comfortable with it. I don't like to label myself at all. I have been labeled since I was a kid. Strange, weird, four eyes. I was a weird kid. And I'm a weird adult. I'm different, but I'm good at what I do, and it's like, I'm trying to make peace with the word because everybody wants me to, but you know what? I'm good at what I do what I do, and I'm a person, I'm able to do lots of things, and I don't think I'm at a point where I can embrace that word. I am who I am, and I'm able to do tons of things, if you can catch me. To sit down on it, because I also have ADHD. That's another label, So these labels they're weighing me down. And I'm not making peace with the disabled part, because I'm able to do so many things. So maybe one of you guys can help me make peace with the word, because I currently can't make peace with it. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm going to turn the same question to Jack.
I have a much different relationship with the word disability, actually. I don't mean that. I think it's great that we have a different relationship. For me, part of the reason I clung to it is very practical reasons. I feel if you don't identify as a person with a disability, then you lose your legal protections that come with that.
But I do that too, sorry. I tried to shout in my mouth, sorry.
And the reason I bring that up is in the autism community, when I was in college, there was a big push to say, autism and Asperger's isn't disability, it's just a difference. And if my parents had walked into an IEP, individual education plan meeting growing up and said, no, Jack doesn't have a disability, Jack's just different, well, my IEP would have been flushed down the toilet right then and there. So on a practical level, I do think it's important that we reclaim that word and use that word, at least in the legal sphere. But in terms of outside of legality, for me, I do still like the word disability. I totally respect the neurodiversity movement and what they're trying to do. But for me, disability, I do feel like, I didn't just have a difference. I really did have issues growing up that I had to overcome. And I feel like disability recognizes those challenges, recognizes that journey in a way that neurodiversity doesn't necessarily do. I'm not saying that's a bad word, that shouldn't be used. It just, for me, I think disability better sums up my journey than necessarily that word neurodiversity.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Nairi.
Oh, God. Here we go again. Sorry, guys.
On the spot.
Oh, man. Okay. So, yeah, I identify as someone, as a disabled person. Some people like person with disabilities, people like disabled. It took me a really long time to accept that. It took me a very long time to get comfortable in my own skin. It took me over 30 years, to be quite frank. You know, I think because growing up, you know, the word disabled was like, well, there's something wrong with you. Like, I lived in Duluth, and I'm like, I'm not disabled. I'm like, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, I'm in a wheelchair. Like, what do you mean you're not disabled? Like, you're clearly sitting on something with wheels. Like, that's a disability. But it was just something I was uncomfortable with. Took me a while, and then once I finally embraced it, God, life got a lot easier, I would say. Like, it took for me to meet other disabled people to finally accept my disability, and that was in college when I started playing wheelchair rugby. Northeast Passage, it's an organization that they help people with disabilities with activities, and they had a wheelchair rugby team, and I was like, oh, I need something to just get my anger out. I'm the child of Soviets, like it's in me, like I need to get it out, like there's something, I'm like, I need to do something. So I joined the team, and I was the only woman on the team, which made it a little more difficult. A lot of locker room talk, and I was like, I don't want to listen to this. You guys are disgusting. But it was my first time meeting these people, and meeting people like they had families. They had like all the men, like most of the men had families, kids. They had jobs. They just were something I had never attributed with the word disabled, like, and which was to me normal. Like, they were just normal dudes who talked really inappropriately. It's like, you guys, like, literally, I'm like, I will never go into a men's locker room. You guys are sick. But it was like this light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, oh wow, like, I'm disabled, and I'm like, I can do things. So they were the ones that got me comfortable in it, and I've always made jokes about my disability. Like, we talk about words, right, and how words can be really powerful. And with my friends, like, I say the word crip all the time, like, oh man, my gimpy leg, or like the crip, or like, we'll go to a restaurant, I'm like, you guys, did you check if it's crip friendly or not? Like, instead of disability friendly or accessible, it's crip friendly. I do it at work all the time, like, Nairi, like, you are literally an employment practices liability claim waiting to happen. You're gonna offend the wrong person one day. I'm like, well, we don't recruit disabled people, and I'm the only one here, so if anyone's going to be offended, it's going to be me, and I'm not really offended by that, so maybe we should work a little bit harder to find people to offend, but my bad. So I've learned, like, I use language. I was telling Ema earlier, I'm like, can I say that? And she's like, say it, whatever you need to say. I use awful words, and my friends do too. If it was someone I don't know, I would probably say your face is going to be my fist. Don't use that. You don't know me. I don't know you. It's not appropriate. But it's just these words we got comfortable with. Like, I'm fine with disabled, disability. There's just a couple words I hate, and hate is a really strong word. Do not ever call me wheelchair bound. I'm not bound to my wheelchair. It is not like a weight, and what is it, like the back in the day, like criminals, they put the thing, what is that called? ESL. English is my second language. What is that? The ball and chain. Thank you. It's my thing. It's my thing that takes me from A to B. Like, it's what gets me from my house to here. It's what got me from, my dad drove me because my car battery died, which is another thing with wheelchair accessible vehicles that we could talk about all day. But, you know, it's my life. It's my legs. I'm not bound to it. It empowers me, and it makes me independent. It doesn't put me in a corner and like put baby in a corner and like cry about it. Like, no, it's this thing. And special needs, I freaking hate that. Like, we're not special. Like, none of us here, maybe we are special. We're all special, okay, but we're not special needs. Like, our needs are not special. Our needs are just accommodations. They're not something that we should think outside the box. Disability is it's a social construct, right? I'm only disabled if I see a flight of stairs, but if there's a ramp, well, not really an issue. I'm only disabled if there's a bathroom that I can't use, but if it's an accessible stall, very happy to use it. We just need to be working better for society to not cater, but just work with people with disabilities and not, make it seem like, well, we have to do it because it's a law. No, like the thing is, everyone in this room, we're all at risk of having a disability. Whether it's visible or invisible, whether you currently have it or not, whether you want to share it, whether you don't want to share it, that's totally up to you and whatever you're comfortable with. But we just got here before y'all. So you're looking at a panel of pioneers up here. And I think that's also what's uncomfortable with people. It's something that is very real. It can affect anyone. And it's scary if you see it. If you see a family member, usually disability goes with elderly, and you see how health can dwindle, and it's a scary sight to see, and it's scary to attach that to yourself, but it's something that could happen, most likely will happen. It's like, let's get these things done. Let's get better about accessibility, so when it does, or if it does happen to you, you don't struggle like we have struggled, or the pioneers of before the ADA struggled. Let's just make life easy for everyone. Everyone will benefit from accessibility. It's not rocket science, a little bit expensive, but we spend a lot of money elsewhere, so why not?
Thank you. Robert.
Well, I'm going to pick up on that a little bit.
Okay.
I have, so what I like to turn this into, and this whole idea of ability and disability, we have institutions that have a hard time telling the difference. And one of those major institutions is the insurance company. And the health insurance companies specifically.
Robert, I apologize.
So I have a very dear friend who is a young person who had osteosarcoma, and she was given prosthetic, and she got back to school, and she wanted to play around with her friends, and because it wasn't a so-called running prosthetic, she couldn't play around with her friends, and she was very upset with that and very unhappy, and didn't want to go to school anymore, and it was very difficult to push through the insurance companies, the health insurance companies, to understand this issue, that just giving me a regular prosthetic isn't going to get me through life. And this is an issue with specifically Mass Health. Mass Health won't give you a second prosthetic. And so her family had to go out of state. It cost them a lot of money to do this, to find a running prosthetic, and it changed her whole life. And if this insurance business could just see what this did for her and would do for other people like her, if they would just open their eyes and see that if they understand the whole story and not just what they're focused on, then we're going to have a lot more unhappy people, and I would rather turn it around and do it the other way. So,
thank you. Something I want to share, for myself personally, as a deaf individual, I do identify as a person with a disability. I do consider myself a disabled person. In preparing for tonight, with the questions and getting to know each of our panelists here, I was doing some research, and I saw something interesting that I want to share with everyone tonight. And this came from the New Hampshire Disability Rights Center. And they write, the prefix DIS, DIS, has long been viewed as a negative, such as dishonest, disrespectful, so forth. So often disability can be seen as a negative. However, dis, dis, is also related to the Latin prefixes bis, bis, and duo, duo, both of which are related to the notion of twice or two ways. So when considered this way, the following can be reimagined as dis, another way of doing, disabled, an ability to do or be something in another way, disability, an ability to do or be in another way. It's an interesting take, and it's really made me think more knowing that this question was raised tonight. I want to thank everyone on this panel for speaking with all the questions. We are going to move on to our next segment, which will be the Q&A. So if you've thought of some questions for specific panels or for everyone here, if you're on Zoom and you have some questions, we will write that down. But before we do that, as mentioned before, the Disability Pride flag, which is in the background, we just wanted to read this aloud. The Disability Pride flag was designed by Anne Magel in 2019 and updated by her in 2021 to accommodate people with visually triggered disabilities. The flag features a black background representing mourning and rage for victims of ableist violence and abuse. Diagonal bands of color stand for cutting across walls and barriers to separate people with disabilities from the rest of society. The 5 colors, red, gold, white, blue, and green, represent the spectrum of needs and experiences of individuals with disabilities, physical disabilities, neurodivergent, invisible and undiagnosed disabilities, psychiatric disabilities, and sensory disabilities. Respectively, the parallelism of the stripes symbolizes solidarity among communities. Thank you again for all the panelists. You're not done yet. We're going to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question and you want to ask, raise your hand. If you want to write something down, we can also do that as well. Lily will be going through the audience. Thank you.
So I get that the story with the prosthetic leg is probably more complicated, but I also think that society should also adjust to us. Maybe it's okay if we can't move as fast or whatever. Maybe everyone else should just adjust to us moving slower, and that's also okay.
Go right for it, Jack.
Interesting idea. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Thanks for speaking up.
Other question in the back?
Hello, my name is Days. I am multiply disabled myself. I have an invisible physical disability, and I also am autistic but undiagnosed. How do you deal with the rage? The black on the flag, I noticed, and I really appreciate that it stands for both mourning and rage for victims of ableist violence. This has been a wonderful panel, but the entire time I've been sitting here, I have been boiling with rage at the way that the world treats us, the systems in place to crush disabled people, to make sure that we are hidden from everyone else because we are.
Barbara, do you want to start?
It's difficult to say, but I know some of you mentioned anger and rage, and I really would love to hear about that aspect, because we don't talk about how minorities feel rage, because it's seen as scary by non-minority groups.
It's very easy to get wallow and swallow in all the anger, because you'll get hit with a wall every single day, I promise you. At least one, maybe a million. I have tried hard throughout my lifetime to channel that anger and rage in a positive way. I'm not saying I always succeed. My little girl here knows I can swear a blue streak. But I have tried to get involved in athletics or in teaching and advocacy, I find that doing things in a more positive way will yield you a positive result. It does require a lot of work, and we need help. We need help. We disabled folks need help from everybody. More disabled folks, able-bodied folks, everybody can get into this movement to give us and help us get the things that we do need to move forward. It's really hard to do, easy to say, but you really have to channel it in a positive way. Otherwise, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I can yell.
Okay.
So, in 7 years, from 2003 to 2010, this particular hospital was filling me with zillions and gillions of gallons of morphine and spinal injections and trying to address the mistake that they made, and I was getting really frustrated and mad and raging. And my mom who was the nurse manager for the PACE program for 40 years and retired when she was 95, she slapped me across the face and told me to get my fucking life together. And that's when I started working on the T-stop at Newton Highlands, and from then started doing a lot of projects with the city of Newton. So you got to do something to oppose the rage. You got to do something that's going to make you happy. So,
Jack?
Sort of building off of what Robert said, I mean, especially growing up, I think I felt the rage more then. The sense that, you feel like you're showing up and asking for basic human rights, and yet it seems like you have to fight for that and push for that. And then when you get angry, you're the angry person who wants to be blown off, or they want to blow you off. I mean, at least for me personally, what I always remind myself is I try to think I'm stronger and tougher than most of the challenges I have to face, and most of the time that proves right. And you really have to steel yourself. That's something I've had to do over the course of my life. The second thing is what Robert said is, channeling that into something positive. I've always been attracted to government and politics and advocacy, and I think part of that is, you can wallow in the status quo and be frustrated with it, or you can try and go out and make a difference. And you're not going to achieve everything you want to achieve. Some things you achieve bits and pieces incrementally, but I think, for me, trying to give back to others, trying to pave a way for someone else, trying to make the world a little better place, that for me has been very fulfilling.
Thank you. I'm going to echo just for a second, Jack. I think at different ages in our lives, we grow and we mature. And I was definitely one of those that was filled with rage when I felt not seen, not heard, not respected, not provided services. And and it goes back to the ADA. There were things that were not in place prior to the ADA, but we had some right. And then I went to college shortly after the ADA, and they were not ready yet. And that's where I had a lot of rage, and I had a lot of frustration. And some of it's also, college age, and I burned down a lot of bridges, but I was always striving to get what I thought I rightfully deserved, not only for myself, but for others who might be in the similar position. And it's an evolution, and it's trying to figure out what are the right channels. And sometimes you don't know, and you have to test, and you have to push, and you have to invite others to join you. But it's an ongoing process, and I think as we learn strategies, there could still be some rage and hurt and upsetness, but how do we act out on that?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I'm going to echo what you guys have both said, where I think at a different age, the rage is definitely a lot more. My dad's over there. He can basically attest. I was a very angry teenager. I talked back a lot. I got in trouble. I was not a great student. It was tough. And as an adult, like you learn, or you force yourself to learn how to use that as the change, like the the gas to help move things forward. Like I said about my workplace, like it grinds my gears that, you know, they are openly like, we're so DEI focused, like we love DEI, like DEI is on the forefront. And I'm like, but you're forgetting about people that look like me. You guys don't do anything about that, and it's very frustrating. So what I'm doing currently, I haven't done it yet, because I'm working on a few projects. Once those projects are over, I'm gonna be reaching out to our our VP of DE&I and being like, hey, use me as your soundboard. What can we do to make sure that we are better about DEI? Because you're missing, point blank, you're missing a huge group of people. So don't be a hypocrite. The company's being a massive hypocrite by saying they're the forefront when you're not. And if I'm the only one, or maybe I'm the only one that will openly, because I can't hide it, say I'm disabled, I know anxiety when I see it, and I can tell you a lot of my colleagues have a lot of anxiety. And they don't have to share that. But that's also part of disability. Like, so what can I do to move things forward and use that as the gasoline, use that as the pivotal moment, I guess.
Thank you. We have a comment from Zoom, which was, as people grow older, as mentioned here, we are most likely prone to having a disability, and such as walking with a cane. People may start talking slowly and looking for the next word. And then this person said they often stop talking because people want to feed the words instead of waiting. And so I empathize with that, and it's sometimes you just need a little bit of patience, just one more minute, and we're here. We're here. We have another question in the audience. We'll be coming around with the microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the issue of people with disabilities not being able to earn a good living is a really important issue, but in conjunction with that, we have people who are in employment roles of working with individuals with disabilities and are extremely underpaid. So we have a conjunction of, we are using immigrants, often with low English skills, to do very low paid, low wage jobs, $15 to $17 an hour, to take care of our most, you know, I don't want to, maybe this is gonna, you guys can correct me if you don't like this wordage, but like most vulnerable. I mean, I'm a person with a disability, and I am vulnerable, and I, you know, have been subject to the treatment of people that were extremely underpaid, undertrained, didn't want to be there, and have seen many, many people who really did want to be there, really did want to do the work, get so overworked and burnt out that they couldn't do the work anymore. So I just feel like we're abusing our immigrants by not paying them well, not training them in English, and putting them in these positions that where then they honestly may not have the heart or the, you know, or the bandwidth to really be there for the people that they're serving. And this is the case with elder care as well, is primarily done by immigrants who are underpaid.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a difficult job for anyone, and an extremely important job, and people do need to be trained, and people do need to have empathy and be paid appropriately and so forth, so that everyone can receive the benefit and care that they need. So thank you for raising that. Other questions we have right in here in the front, and then we'll zip to the back.
I just want to applaud all the inspirational talk that each of our panelists have given about overcoming so many challenges, and those challenges getting somewhat better, but still very much there. I bought Nathan's condominium very close to the T station, that the commuter rail, because we knew that he wanted to work downtown in government, and actually had a great job that he wanted to help being a travel advisor training, but he can't get downtown because he can't get on that commuter rail. I bought the condo 5 years ago with the promise that that would be fixed by now, but of course it hasn't. But I'm now going to do something a little more controversial because I am who I am. And I'm going to turn the table on the rest of you in this room and say, if every one of you is not actively making change to help people with disabilities, then you're not doing your job. And the biggest thing in Newton that we can do is change how we think about housing. And I have done a lot of work in low-income housing for the state, and I've done a lot of work in high sustainability housing, using that fancy word passive house, which hopefully a lot of you now know about. But I just bought 2 pieces of property on Monday, each of them 15,000 square feet, 0.7 miles from the transit station in Newton Center. Those 2 lots, virgin land, old growth trees, and a meadow with sun. Those 2 lots are zoned SR2, single family. I would love to build a 3 or 4 unit house that would house various adults of special needs. My city councilors have voted the wrong way over and over again. Not just in voting the wrong way about the zoning laws, but voting out some of our best housing advocates last fall. It was a travesty for the city, and I'm still raging about it. And I can't build that house that would help any one of these people, including my son, because not only do our city councilors not support it, but the neighbors on Chapin Road would be furious if I put in a 3 or 4 unit building next to their single family homes. I would get no support from my abutters. I would get no support from my city councilors. So why bother? I'm not even gonna try. And I have the money, I have the vision, I have 2 beautiful pieces of land, 0.7 miles from public transportation. What are you guys doing about it? How are you changing your minds, your neighbors' minds, and how are you actually helping these people get housed and getting their jobs?
Thank you. I think one of the important things that I take away from your comment, there are many, but everyone here is in the room tonight to listen, to learn, and hopefully they will take what they learned from here and what they hear from here and bring it back home to their neighbors, politicians, religious communities, other communities, and that will start the ripple effect. So thank you for your passion and for speaking up for what is so important. So thank you. We have time for a few more questions. We're going to take one. The microphone's heading around in the middle.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Sorrentino, and you all have been so eloquent in expressing the need for awareness and acceptance. And with that in mind, understanding our differences started back in the late 70s for the Newton Elementary School children to understand differences. And what they learned in the program is exactly what you all are saying that we need. And yet, that program is no longer happening in our public schools for the elementary school children. And I am wondering how you feel about that, and is there something that can be done so that the powers to be will listen and reinstate the program?
We'll start with Nathan.
We have tried. I've spoken with Jenny and others at great lengths about this, and we're all very disappointed. And it a little bit comes down to the school committee politics, and the superintendent is the one not who basically made this decision to cut understanding our differences. Going back to the point we made earlier about diversity, equity, and inclusion, if getting left out, I should rephrase that. Disability getting left out of the DEI conversation. It is that most people, your average American, doesn't have a disability, so they don't think about disability as much. And Anna Nolan, our superintendent of schools, has said, I would rather have a person with a PhD teaching about people with disabilities instead of a lived person teaching about disability. What kind of messed up logic is that?
Thank you. And this really goes back to what people all over the country say. You can make a difference in local politics. And so educating and speaking with your school committee members, your state rep, and everyone on a local level, you can actually make drastic changes. So something to think about. We have another question in the back.
And I think we'll have time for just this one more question.
Well, I guess I'm kind of piggybacking on where this discussion is heading, and I think it kind of is fitting to have it right at the end. But my name is Jenny. My dear friend Robert is up there, and he spoke earlier about my daughter Anya here, who 2 years ago was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and she, in that process, needed to lose part of her leg and has a prosthetic. And so I was thrown into this discussion as a mother, and I think that when you go through something like that, you suddenly are hit with barrier after barrier after barrier. I mean, one thing that came up was that Boston Children's Hospital will amputate your child's leg and not mention disability rights. Nothing. I didn't even think to check it off like on paperwork. So, you know, there are huge gaps out there. And so kind of what we were speaking to in housing as a mom, my kids, I have 3 kids at Cabot Elementary in Newtonville, and I participated in Understanding Our Differences, and thank God for that program right when Anya she was in 1st grade when it happened, and coming through it, like that program wasn't talking about Anya, but she was there in the room hearing that difference mattered, and that we cared about it in our district, and that we have a way to talk about it, and that it's okay to be curious, right? Like, we don't know what to do with our curiosity, none of us. You know, I mean, even Anya had the experience of seeing someone with an arm and feeling like, without an arm, excuse me, and feeling like she wanted to look, and then being like, Mom, I don't want to stare because I hate it when people stare at me, but I'm curious. And I'm like, yes, that's normal. Like, that is what we all need to talk about, right? Is that we have differences and we notice those differences. And so that is an area of passion, and housing is an area of passion. And so I guess I'm left wondering, like, where are the areas that I need to know about? Because you guys are here speaking, and thank you so much for doing so, because it's representing so many of us, and we all have huge gaps, right, of knowing what to advocate for. So with Anya's prosthetic, I discovered that there's a law called So Everybody Can Move. And Maine has passed it. It started in Connecticut, and it's so that kids and adults can have access to athletic prosthetics. And we've advocated at the state level, and it's now passed the Committee for Finances, and then it passed again the Committee for Healthcare Reform, Finance, and unfortunately it's not going to pass this session because they need to do what's called a CHIA. So we'll have to do it all again next year, or next session, just because that's how the process goes, I'm learning. But I'm also learning that our voices really, really do matter, that like are actually in the committee, the first committee, like they specifically wrote Anya a letter and said, this bill passed because we heard your story, thank you. Like they officially wrote it, and we did all we did was tell. So I guess my question is, what am I ignorant about now? Because I know there's a ton, but like I want to support understanding our differences as much as I can, and I definitely, like that, hearing your story made me feel like the housing laws are something that I can give voice to because I have your voice, your story to help boost. But like, I guess for all of you up there, you probably all have your own piece that it was just like this nugget, if you could just do this. And so, I don't know, if you could leave us with your nugget of like, hey, like, please lend your voice or energy here, we could really use it, because I'd love to lend mine. So.
I think being here tonight is an incredible beginning. We all have experiences. We all have things that we...
Your attention, please. The library will be closing in 20 minutes.
Okay. We all have things that... We all have things that we're passionate about, things that we can continue to learn, and just being in this room, we are all learning. There are things that each of us know a lot about, and there are things that each of us wishes we knew more about. And tonight's a perfect example of that. I myself have learned a lot from the folks who have spoken, from the panelists, and connecting. Newton is a big city, but it's a small one. You can find each of us here and ask questions and figure out how to work together and help one another. And so I would highly recommend that you continue to do that. Speak to people, engage with them, share your stories, learn from other people's stories, and continue on that path. We all want to do better, and it's how do we get there? And I think we can do that. Tonight's an amazing beginning of that journey. So thank you. As the library said, we are out of time. But I want to thank everyone who's physically here in the room for being here. I want to thank everyone on Zoom for being here. I have a list of special thank yous to our event organizers, Lily, Emma, Jack, Jeannie, Jenny, and Rebecca. I want to thank our amazing panelists here, Nairi, Robert, Nathan, Jack, and Barbara. I want to thank Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller for her ongoing support of tonight and for being here. I want to thank New TV for recording, our American Sign Language interpreters, Ellen Versbow and Julia Barnes, and many of our Newton organizations, Understanding Our Differences, Newton Commission on Disability, Pathway to Possible, the Price Center, the Carroll Center, Newton CPAC, Athletes Unlimited, and if I missed you, I apologize, but thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope you all go out tonight and carry on your questions, your stories, your learning, and your advocacy. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.